Now, let me get to this so-called greatest generation. Now, the greatest generation was coined by Tom Brokaw. And basically, the greatest generation is commonly referred to those Americans who were born in the 1900s through the 1920s. So they were adults during World War II, right? They, what I will give them credit for is that they lived through not only the Great Depression, but World War One and World War II. So if you want to say they were they were one of the most resilient generations, I might not argue with you too much about that, right? I mean, Great Depression and two world wars. I would say that there's a generation that just went through September 11th, and then also the war on terror, which is technically still going, the Iraqi war and Afghanistan and all that stuff, right? For 20 years. And there was also a whole generation that didn't even get to volunteer. They were forced into Vietnam. And then you also have the feminist movement, civil rights movement. That actually, to me, is the greatest generation. But let's focus on why they say that this generation born in 1900s and 1920s is the greatest generation, right? Okay, I will give them the fact that they went through the Great Depression and two world wars. But then they are described as driven, patriotic, and team players. Okay, well, I just examined how they're not team players. And oh, let's not forget that segregation was a real thing during this time, right? So how much of team players were they? How driven were they? I don't know. I mean, I guess there is something to be said to pull yourself out of the Great Depression. I will say that the economy of war helped us out of the Great Depression, but you still had to go through it. They're the parents of baby boomers, and who I actually believe, and I know there's a knock on boomers right now, but boomers were the adults that were really fighting the real fights to get social justice in this country and to get as close to as you could possibly get to equality. We're still not there yet, but they fought the fights. So yeah, like I said, originated Tom Brokaw kind of labeled them the greatest generation. And I have a friend who's in her 60s who said, yeah, that's the greatest generation because they all went off to war. Okay, let's talk about World War II. And let's talk about our involvement, America's involvement in World War II. America delayed getting into World War II. And that's because they preached a philosophy of isolationism. This meant that many Americans believed that the conflict in Europe was not their concern and that the U.S. should focus on its own defense and avoid involvement in foreign wars. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like what a lot of people in particular parties are saying about Ukraine and Gaza? I'm just saying. Does that not sound familiar? Public opinion is that, hey, we had just done a world war 20 years ago. We don't really want to be in another one. And I can kind of understand that. Okay, you just fought one fight and you're not trying to really fight no heavy fight again. Also, there were some political debates with some of some Americans questioning joining the war before they did, because they believed that the U.S. should be isolated. And there were other people who were actually like, no, we got to jump in this war to fight fascism. And then there were even people, and once again, these are all facts. If you read books, you read articles about why America hesitated to enter into World War II, you can find all this information. Google. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Google is your friend. There were also Americans who had just come to the point that after Germany had made so many advances in Europe, that they were just too strong and didn't want that smoke. Yes, there were people here in this country that just didn't want the smoke with Germany because Germany was just taking over all of Europe. And it wasn't until Pearl Harbor was attacked on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese did a surprise attack at Pearl Harbor that we decided to enter the war. So a lot of the majority of men enlisted into the war, and this is considered patriotic, and it is, right? It is patriotic to fight for your country. I will never, ever attack anybody that has blood, sweat, tears, fought for this country. I am a strong supporter of our armed forces. I'm a strong supporter of the military. I'm an even stronger supporter of the veterans. I think we need to do a much better job at taking care of those people who have PTSD, have mental, emotional, and physical pains, dismemberment, all that stuff from going into defending us. But with that being said, to say that America was noble and patriotic for joining the armed forces to go fight in this war, I question not the patriotism. I question the hero comment. Because I'm sorry, for anybody out there, if somebody walks up to you and punches you in the face, are you just going to turn and walk away and continue on with your day? Or are you going to punch them back or do something back in retaliation? Now, if you decide that you want to turn and walk away or run away because you don't want that smoke, I'm not here to judge anybody. I don't know how hard that person hit you or who that person was. If Mike Tyson even if Mike Tyson walked up to me and punched me in the face, I'm going to take that L, but I'm going to defend myself. That's just pride. If you like that clip, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to catch up on all of our latest content. Don't forget to hit the notification button when you do subscribe so you can get updated every time we release content. We release content every day, whether it's an actual show or clips from the shows. So go ahead and subscribe, like, comment. Also, don't forget our Patreon page where you can find our Talking Straight-ish and After Hours Uncensored episodes. That's patreon.com/Unsolicited Perspectives. But once again, thank you again for listening to Unsolicited Perspectives. I'm your host, Bruce Anthony, and I'm going to catch you next time. I'll holla.